Sometimes a single discovery can change what we know about the archaeology of a region or a time period. As one example, my excavations at the Ritidian Star Cave of Guam reveal the broken pieces of a vine-impressed pottery bowl, dated around 1500 BC, different from all of the thousands of other pieces of pottery from this site and every other site of every known time period of the Mariana Islands. The uniqueness of this discovery may have been related to the specific location at the Ritidian Star Cave, known for its ritual or ceremonial context. This video shares my approach for documenting this unique discovery and for broadening our knowledge about what happened around 1500 BC, when people first were living in the remote distant islands of Pacific Oceania. The tradition of vine-impressed pottery in general has been known in many different parts of the world, but this particular form was unknown in the Mariana Islands, except in this one instance. The impressions were made by several lines of vines or similar strands pressed into the clay when it still was wet or malleable, prior to firing the pot into its final form of hardened earthenware. The impressions were made multiple times, including cases of overlapping lines. The markings mostly were in horizontal directions over the exterior, and they were in more noticeably mixed directions over the interior. Most likely a set of vines was wrapped around a stick or a paddle or another handheld item that could be positioned in precise places. The lower part of the bowl was not treated in this manner, and instead it showed a plain surface of the clay. Looking at the material composition of the clay paste and the inclusions of fine sand and minerals, one plain corner base fragment can be attributed to the same original pot. The other missing pieces either had disintegrated or else had been scattered outside the confines of the modern excavation area. When examining all of the available pieces together and accounting for their individual curvatures, the overall shape of the pottery bowl can be approximated. It was about 18 centimeters across at its top opening, and it stood about 8 centimeters tall. The shape and the size were consistent with other pottery of this earliest time period. The notable difference involved the distinctive patterns of the vine impressions. Focusing on the context around 1500 BC, when people first were living in the islands of remote Pacific Oceania, the pottery of the Mariana Islands mostly was red-slipped earthenware. Rare pieces were decorated with dentate-stamped, circle-stamped, and fine line-incised designs. Extremely rare instances retained the impressions of carved paddles that had been impressed into the exterior surfaces. In a larger cross-regional view, carved paddle-impressed pottery has been found not only in the Marianas but also in other Pacific islands and parts of island Southeast Asia, generally prior to about 1000 BC. From the Ritidian Star Cave, the unique form of vine-impressed pottery now can be added to the inventory of what we know about the first inhabitation of the island world of remote Pacific Oceania. In Guam, the Ritidian Site happens to include 5 localities of this earliest cultural period where the ancient layers now have been buried deeply beneath the ground. The sea level at 1500 BC was different from today, and the ancient shoreline layer over time became buried beneath the more recent layers and stranded farther inland. My modern excavations found these ancient layers and clarified that people lived at one location while they accessed 2 caves for ritual or ceremonial purposes, and they visited at another 2 smaller caves for temporary camping or shelter. One of the ritual caves today is known as the Star Cave at Ritidian. The unique vine-impressed pottery was found at the exterior of this cave, within the layer of the ancient beach that once had been at this location. Today, the cave is known for its many pictographs that people had created during several different time periods, beginning probably around the time of the oldest archaeological layers, about 1500 BC. I should clarify that nobody actually lived permanently at the Star Cave. Rather, people periodically accessed this cave and the other large cave known as the First Cave without creating the patterns of house posts, cooking hearths, and dense food middens that otherwise are found at the regular residential areas. Moreover, people at these 2 caves discarded unusual kinds of shellfish debris, meaning that they ate different foods here than they otherwise would eat at their everyday housing areas. At the Star Cave and the First Cave, people created rock art, found pools of fresh water, and apparently ate different kinds of foods than what they ordinarily would eat at their homes. These circumstances suggest a ritual or ceremonial context at these two caves, set apart from the context of practical daily life at the residential habitation area. My excavations at the first cave revealed an extraordinarily dense concentration of highly ornate pottery, shell ornaments, and other artifacts, often placed inside small offering pits. Many of these objects were extremely rare or unique items. Those aspects were not repeated at the Star Cave, where instead the record showed plain and utilitarian pottery, practical stone and shell tools, and no shell ornaments whatsoever. In other words, the proposed ritual or ceremonial context was different at the two caves. The vine-impressed pottery at the Star Cave was unique, but it was part of a context of utilitarian and practical artifacts, in contrast to the context of numerous highly ornate and specialized objects at the first cave. This larger contextual understanding can help toward appreciating what made the vine-impressed pottery unique at the Star Cave, as well as within the Ritidian Site complex as a whole, and furthermore within the broader setting of the earliest cultural period of the region. What are your thoughts about this vine-impressed pottery? More generally, how would you approach the documentation of a unique or anomalous discovery in archaeology? Please share your ideas, experiences, and suggestions in the comment section. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.